The businesses which earn the most on social media are the ones who advertise less and market more. And if you want to become one of them, here are some tips that you should keep in mind when you're planning your strategy for this year. The first one is understanding the two types of goals you need to have when you're beginning to craft your social media plan. The first one should be your financial goal, the return on investment that you want to see from your social media marketing efforts. After all, you're a business owner. I understand that this is what's really important for you. The second type of goal you need to establish is a social based goal. And the reason why this is important is because most business owners only stick to the financial gains they can get from social media and forget all about the additional benefits to having a strong brand with a strong reputation with a very loyal community who can be ready to make a purchase any single time of the day depending on what you're producing. So both are equally important, because if you have the socially based goal nailed, it's easier to have a return on investment each time you have something to offer. And the reason why you have to start here is because everything you do, every piece of content, every piece of strategy that you're going to try for the remainder of the year are going to be based on these two goals that you're going to set. From these two different tranches, you can now start pinpointing the different metrics that are going to be important for measuring the success of the strategy. So you want to be making sales, you need to start thinking about your sales funnel that are linked to your social media channels. So do you have a website? Do you have a landing page? Does that lead to a checkout site? And is the technology behind that efficient enough that when someone goes to that link, they'll have an easy process in making a purchase? Or do they have to be directed elsewhere off that social media platform? And when you think about all the steps that are going to be in that sales process, it gives you an indication of what your content messaging needs to sound like and what your call to actions need to be. So already you're starting to see how the strategy for our content is forming when you're directly creating a piece of content to drive a particular sale. When it comes on to the socially based goals, you're looking to build a community, you're looking to boost engagement. You want to start looking at how persons are sharing your content, the comments you're receiving, the DMs that are happening. If you have an email newsletter, for example, how many persons are opting into that email newsletter? Already we're starting to see some of the key metrics coming out for both goals, which can lead to an indication of success or not. It's important to establish why these metrics are important to you and how they're linked back to your goals, because oftentimes people tend to get very caught up in the vanity metrics, so the likes and how many followers we're getting, and because it's not reflecting a particular number, sometimes your brain can make you feel like your strategy is failing. So it's important to always keep a level head where these metrics are concerned, so that you know where your benchmark is, you know what you need to revisit and test to see if this strategy is working or not. So we've talked about setting the goals, the first one being the financially based one, the second one being the socially based goals, and we've talked about establishing what metrics we need to be monitoring to ensure that both of these goals are on track to being achieved. As you're building this out, you're gonna realize that you're gonna need different types of content that speaks to these different goals. So a piece of content that's going to be made for creating a sale may be based on a promotion, may be based on a launch plan that you have coming up, may be based on a story that you have to share, and at the end of that story you give someone an offer. The one that's more based on the community could look like creating videos that are more of giving valuable information to persons, or calling out a common pain point that your ideal customer may have and helping them to feel heard and seen. And this is where you start to see the difference between advertising and simply marketing your business. Advertising is going to be more aligned with the return on investment goals, and marketing your business, to put it simply, is going to be more aligned with the social goal. The difference between the two, and the reason why I say it's important to advertise less and to market more, is because if you can get people to believe that you as a brand, that your business care about their well-being, if you can get them to buy into that brand story, you don't need to create a whole ad to sell to them. You've already won them over. And in marketing, we tend to call this process of warming them up much more easier. So this is why it's also important. And sometimes as a business, I think we tend to forget that you're still on a social app. So we think going online is only about posting something and telling people to buy from us. And we forget the social aspect of social media. And if you know anything about social media today, you know that it is heavily based on engagement. And engagement only comes through literally facilitating communication on the platform. So as a brand, even if you have a brand account, you have to equally be communicating with persons and keep finding unique ways to keep conversations going so that the algorithm can see that people want to engage with your content. The only way to do that effectively is to create content that are based on your ideal clients' likes, dislikes, pain points, everything that speaks to who they are. And this is the easier way to attract them towards your brand before you even start selling to them. So now that we understand the difference between the two of these contents, I need you to sit down and start thinking about the type of content that you can create, the topics you can talk about that are aligned to both of these types of goals. On the advertising side, determine what products you want to talk about, what products you want to launch, when you want to launch those products, and what the goal, the sales goals are for that product or service. And on the socially side, talk about things like how many impressions you want. Talk about the topics that is really going to really spark conversation based on research that you've done on your ideal client. You also want to integrate topics that will help your ideal clients to understand the problem that they're having much better. Remember that you are a business, so you're solving a problem and you want to highlight that problem as best as you can. Oftentimes, your ideal customer know that they have an issue, but they either don't fully understand it just yet, or they still haven't decided who is the best option to help them solve that problem. So if you can create content that can answer those two questions, what's my issue or how can I get this issue solved, then it's an easier way to attract them towards, giving you the task of solving the problem for them. So you want to sit down. I like to do this in a calendar where I sit down and write down some of the things that my ideal clients are struggling with, the topics that I want to talk about, and how you're going to know how these goals are aligned to these content topics is based on your call to action. So one call to action could be directing persons to download a freebie. They could comment a word and you enter a prompt and help them to download something that will, give them some information on a product or service that you're offering. Another call to action could lead to literally directing them to a checkout link, if you may. But either way, you want to sit down and be intentional with the topics that you're talking about, because these are going to be the kind of like the make it or break it when it comes on to whether or not you may land a particular sale, or you may have someone that's now interested in getting to know your brand some more. It's important while you're thinking about your content topics to think about your content formats and how you want to, basically show up online. Some business owners tend to shy away from being on camera, although I would advise otherwise, because I believe human connection is very much needed, especially in this age of AI where people are wary about who's fake and who is real. I think it's important to have a strong face for your business, and showing up online really helps to, bolster that authenticity for your brand and for you as the face behind the brand. So I would encourage any business owner to start getting on camera more, talking about your services more, showing behind the scenes content so that persons can see how much goes into putting together this offer that you have for them. And it also helps to deepen that connection to the brand itself. It's also important to think about the quality of the content that you're also producing. So gone are the days where people are just going to simply sit down and watch a blurry video with horrible sound quality if it's not entertainment based. I tell my clients all the time, you need to invest in adequate equipment. You have to. Your marketing efforts are equally as important, because you can have the best ideas, the best product or service, but if no one knows about it, if no one is sticking around to hear what you have to say, then you will not be able to make the sale that you deserve based on, all the work that you put in. When you've considered all of these things and you start to document it, you've begun the process of building out your new social media plan. To ensure that you don't repeat the same mistakes, I also want to encourage you to take a look at your analytics from previous times from last year. Take a look at what went great, what didn't go so well, what type of content you could possibly reuse based on the formats, based on what persons were saying, and try to integrate that format going forward. You want to keep your eye out for trends as well, because there is a wave of engagement that they carry that can really make a difference for your brand's performance in a particular season. So try your best to look out for trends that are suitable for your industry and for your brand as well. But ultimately, you want to ensure that you always have original content on the go and ready, so that you can remain consistently posting online. And as I said, those pieces of content should all lead back to one or two of these goals. Ideally, primarily goal number 2, which is a socially based goal. Now for some bonus tips when it comes on to the metrics that you measure going forward. Earlier we talked about looking at your impressions. I mentioned also looking at your website clicks. These are all important when you're trying to determine what's working from versus what's not working. But equally as important is understanding your share of voice on social media. Share of voice basically means the percentage of which your voice is being heard in your industry in comparison to your competitors. So when people think about your product or service, do you appear in their minds? Do you come to mind as a authority figure that can solve that problem? If the answer to that is no, then you know you have work to do. If the answer to that is maybe sometimes, then there's definitely more room for growth. Your share of voice is crucial. It's important. It's one of the things that determines how much of an authority figure you are. It's important to try your best to get this amplified, and the different ways you can do so are through collaborations. This is probably the number one way of bolstering your share of voice, simply because it exposes you to other audiences, especially if you are collaborating with another industry giant. So you want to find your way into articles, you want to get into the media, into the newspaper in your local community, you want to go on podcasts, you want to join someone for a workshop, you want to go to speaking events. It's very important to try and integrate yourself into these spaces, so that when people think about, oh my God, like cosmetics, they can think about this brand, or when they think about a business consultant, this person can come to their mind. So your share of voice is very important as a business. It's also a good way to monitor what the conversations are around your business online. So sometimes, people will tweet things, people will have their conversations, they'll post their TikToks. You want to always be looking for mentions of your business online to ensure that you're not missing anything that might be crucial to the overall reputation of your brand. I promise you guys, if you take all these tips, if you integrate them, if you really think them through as you're building out your social media strategy for this year, it will really make a difference for your business, and you can finally start seeing the return on the investment, not only in the financial aspect in terms of making money, but also in the brand loyalty, which I believe is equally as important for the overall sustainability and growth of your business online. If you found this video helpful, then you might find even more value in checking out this video, where I talk about 10 business mistakes you should not make when it comes down to social media marketing this year. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.